Metal Babe Mayhem is more than just an online store. It's a destination.
Shine a light on me when I'm scared of the dark.
MetalBabeMayhem.com carries over 150 rock and roll products, including clothing, jewelry, and accessories.
For good and not for greed.
Everybody, it's your own Blade the Dreamer. Welcome to Hangin with the Dreamer. Featuring from Winslow Court Studios in Hollywood, California, Mr. Craig Parker Adams. How are you, Craig? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dreamer. Good to be here, man. Good to be here.
I am so privileged and honored to have you, and I can't wait. I've been waiting 2 weeks to ask you these three questions.
All right, what are they?
Here we go. What is the backstory to Los Lunas?
Well, the backstory to Los Lunas is, that's a big question, actually. Basically, when I first kind of started recording other artists and things, I met a guy, a drummer by the name of Rich Toledo, and he encompasses Al's vibe kind of more than anybody I've ever come across in my life. And so when that happened, it was kind of like something I had been searching for my whole life as a guitar player, looking for being an Ed head, looking for my Al, right? And so this guy came into the studio, and right away I could tell that he kind of, he had that sound. And so I approached him about getting together and doing, just having a jam night, basically. And I had to be careful about it because, excuse me, he was playing drums in a friend's band. And so I didn't want to appear like a vulture trying to steal the guy from his project, because that's not cool, right? So I just approached him and my friend who was in that band about, hey, let's have a jam night, play some old Van Halen stuff. And so that's what we did. And I recorded it, and it really, to me, had something special where the first time that him and I ever played together, we knew like 30 plus tunes from the VH catalog, from bootlegs, live versions, all these variations, like we knew it. So when we started playing, to me, right away, I felt like, oh, we sound like the brothers, like immediately. This is special. So to get on with the story, I talked to him about, what do you think about, I had this idea where I wanted to write some original songs that kind of had the essence and the feel of like what I would consider to be like old unreleased Van Halen songs. That was my plan. So I pitched him on the idea, and he was open to it. And so we started working together on some tunes, and Los Lunas, I think, was probably about the fourth song that we did together. And that is a co-write. And originally that was kind of written on keyboards by Rich. So when he brought the idea in and played it, it actually had a totally different section for the main big section, which I kind of call like, to me, it's reminiscent of Hear About It Later, with the dive bombs and stuff on the guitar. It sounds like the overdubbed part from Hear About It Later. But anyways, originally there was a totally different section for that tune. And so as I was trying to find a way to make it my own, and there was no title or anything for the song, it's just, here's an idea, here it is. I record the drums and the keyboards, and then basically begin to flush out my parts through his keyboard guide, basically. And then I turned it into my thing, or let's say an Ed thing, me trying to do an Ed thing. Let's put it that way. I don't want to just say that I nailed it, but that's what I was aiming for. And so as it went on, and it took a while because I wasn't happy with the main part of the song, although it's very cool. I felt like I needed to contribute something to this that was uniquely different, and so that's what I did. And then I came up with the name for it because, as I found out, you and I have a mutual friend of Doug Anderson at the Tone Zone, and so when I first met Doug back in the early '90s. I didn't realize that he actually lived right around the corner from Los Lunas. Like, he was literally 2 blocks away from the house that the brothers grew up in. And so he brought me over there back then in the early 90s. And of course, anybody who's ever been there knows, that's hallowed ground. It's holy ground. It's magical. You walk around the neighborhood, you walk down the back alley, you go over to the liquor store, all of this kind of stuff. You see where they wrote their hand, in the, on the curb and all of this. And so it's a special thing. And so Los Lunas, to me, I've always been a sentimental guy about my home and where I come from. And so I took it, I'm like, Los Lunas, this is where they started. And so I always wanted to pay homage in that way. And so that's where the title came from. So I know that's kind of a long, roundabout way of explaining it, but that's really the origins of it. And truthfully, there's a whole nother song within, the bass part is remained from the keyboard part that Rich originally wrote. So that part is playing underneath the guitar dive bomb section. And that was basically doubled on guitar and keyboards, but I removed the keyboards. I didn't want the keyboards there. It was just a guide, because Rich plays drums and keys. So when we were co-writing, his ideas came in from the keyboard, and then I would either, change them or really do what he did, like, play what he played, or alter it and make it more my own, or, so that's really how that whole song came about,
That's when is the first time I heard that. And the first time I watched the video, and I liked your right hands. It's great. I was just like,
well, see, now that's the thing, because I'm not, because there's a guy out on YouTube back when I released that song. I don't know what it was, 2008ish or something. I was lucky enough and honored enough to garner a fan who is a guitar player. His name's Craig Mann, and he started covering my songs and doing his own videos of my tunes, or I should say our tunes in this case. And that was a very touching, special experience. For me, I had one guy do it. Ed has millions of guys doing it. But I got a little taste of how special that can be. And so I'm not sure which video you might be referring to, because he has his video where he's playing it with these other people. My video is the one where I'm working on my amp, and I got these girls from, these Asian girls doing 5 girls doing this dance thing from this other video. So which video did you see?
That would be with the white Kramer.
Yeah, so that's not me. That's actually Craig Mann. So he's done me a great service by his YouTube videos got way more views than mine ever did. So he's really responsible for bringing you to me, is from his video. So yeah, he plays the white Kramer, and then he does another version of a song of mine, Kick It Down, where he's using the Bumblebee. And so anyways, that was a real thrill for me, just to see somebody playing, our tunes or my tunes. So I got to really kind of thank him for that, because that's probably how you and I actually met. Then would be through him. So, but there's another video out that's on my YouTube channel, Craig Parker Adams, and you can see that. And so, anyways, that's the original video. But yeah, using the flanger for the yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Atomic Punk.
Basically, yeah, but with the flange, exactly. Which he would sometimes do live too. He would add the flange on top of the phaser live, to do just to kick it into the next part, But yeah, that's of course the brilliance of Edward.
The next song, now, the song Evolution, when I first heard it, I just kind of closed my eyes and leaned my head back. And it just grabbed me. I mean, I could actually hear the story in my head while you were playing through the song Evolution. I could hear that story start to unfold. So I'm really interested to see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. What is the backstory and the inspiration behind your awesome single, Evolution?
Well, I first of all, it's interesting that you choose that track, because that track actually is the very first track that Rich and I co-wrote together. That's the first one that we worked on. So when I pitched him the idea of, oh, hey, you'd be interested in trying this? And he was like, yeah. So that's the very first song that we did together. And again, that is a co-write as well. And as you can tell, there's keyboards in that track. So that's Rich on keys. And what I always loved about Rich is that when he plays keys, he sounds like Ed. And when he plays drums, he sounds like Al. It's awesome. So it already had that feel. But the thing about it to me is that it had a Sammy feel. And I'm not so much a Sammy feel guy. I'm a Dave guy more so. So I was kind of trying to think, well, how can I make this a little bit more than what this actually is? So it pulled me towards Van Halen 2. That was my approach. That in my head, from my guitar approach, I was like, it was kind of Women and Lovey, kind of, something just more off of Van Halen 2 was what I was going for guitar-wise. So there's times where I'm basically just following the keyboard changes, but then there's other parts of that where the guitar parts are not the keyboards, at all. Particularly the outro, and then also in the choruses, I do something different than he may be setting the tone with these are the chords, but then I'm vamping on something different off of the chord. But that song was our very first one that we did. Like I said, it was it was pulling towards the Sammy feel. I was trying to pull it away from that, and we kind of got a mixture somewhere in between of both of those, So it has the mid Van Halen and the early Van Halen, but it's not an aggressive track. In fact, that's a song that I've actually always wanted to redo. Now that it's been behind me for quite a while, or even remix, let's put it that way. But I don't know, there's a part of me too where it's like you're not the only one that's come to me over the years about that song. It seems to strike a chord with a lot of people. So that's, again, the long story of what's the story? Well, that is the first one that we did together. It was kicked off with a keyboard idea, again, from Rich. And then I tried to somehow within it make it my own. And also, I should maybe preface that these songs that you're talking about are from a record of mine that I just called Demos. Because when basically I did this, in other words, Rich came into my studio, we'd work on it together for a few hours, whatever it would be at a time. And once I got the drums cut and the basic arrangement, or even enough parts where I could put an arrangement together, I would just take it and do it all myself at that point whenever I had time. So anyways, the whole idea was to try and grab feels from different songs, or I hate to use the term eras, but I think the listener understands what I mean by that. Whether it's the early, late 70s, or even from the club days all the way up to, basically, let's just say OU 812. In that time frame is where we were. I was kind of stuck at I'll say 81, 79 to 81. Those are my years. And Rich was pulling it into the Sammy years of the first two records with the keyboard approach. So that broadened the scope of what kind of feel can I go for to make this thing come together? And also still try to be a viable track on its own, where it's like you listen to it, and I would hope that the majority of people who have heard that track go, yeah, that's actually, that's a good song. That's cool. It was important to us not to just throw something together. We really put the history of our love for that band into what we were creating. And because we were such devotees of them, we acquired, this may be beyond me to say, but I'll say it and let, again, the listener decide, is that we each carried a degree of essence of the masters, meaning Edward and Alex. And that's the biggest thing that comes through, as well as some merit that, these guys are actually, they can play and they can write. That was important. So that's kind of evolution, I sit around and play, particularly the outro and the chorus. I really love that part. The solo, I had a tough time trying to find a solo that was really kind of, I feel like, I could probably write a better solo now for that. But anyways, it is what it is. It was what it was.
And the third single, thank you. And the third single that, if you could possibly care to elaborate on, would be When She Shines the Light in Sky.
Yeah, When She Shines the Light. Okay, so that track was 100% written by me. And I originally recorded that with a drum machine. Actually, it was Rich is basically playing what I wrote on the drum program that I used. So I'm kind of at a core, I'm a wannabe drummer. So, and I'm really good with coming up with rhythms, beats, patterns, programming drums. Even now, I'm playing drums a lot more myself now. But anyways, so that track, 100% ground up, I did. And what I was aiming for the hardcore Van Halen fans out there, if you know the song Let Me Swim in Your Ocean, which was a Cactus cover, I believe, and they used to play that in the clubs. And I think the best recording of that I can seem to recall hearing is when there's a Golden West Ballroom recording of them playing Let Me Swim. And I never knew it was a cover. I only learned that many years later. But it is such a tough, badass, what I call Club Days Van Halen, just on fire, really. No pun intended. Or maybe there is pun intended. I don't know. So that's what I was aiming for. So that was just in fact, and what's funny is that I'm not even using my rig on that track. I'm playing through an amp simulator that was sent to me. And so I always wanted to recut it with my rig, but I never did, because it's got a feel, it's got a spank or a vibe on the guitar, kind of a aggro sort of thing to it. But that's basically what that is. And if you were to kind of break that track down a little bit, there's the main vibe of the track, which is kind of the play off of Let Me Swim in Your Ocean from the club days, just real aggressive. And then there's also some really clever little rhythmic parts within it. And then there's also some stuff that's kind of maybe, I don't know if it's 1984-ish or whatever on the guitar, because some of 1984 Ed wrote back in the clubs. You know what I mean? There's songs that have been around a while, House of Pain in particular. So it's kind of a mixture of that, the club stuff, and then maybe a hint into the world of 1984. But the whole idea was just to kick your ass, And Van Halen on fire in the clubs just kicked your ass. I never got to see them that way. I mean, I've seen them in a club, but that wasn't them in the 70s with Dave. I saw them in a club in Mexico with Sam, and I saw Ed play in a club a few times on other projects. But anyways, that's When She Shines the Light. So that's what that track was. So that was somewhere in the middle towards the end of the 10 songs that him and I had done together. And of the 10 songs we did together, I think 4 of them or 5 of them were co-writes. And all the rest were just me. And I played bass on most of the stuff as well. From what I remember. So I think my friend Andy played on a couple things, but pretty much I did all the bass, all the production, all the recording, the engineering, the producing, the arranging, all of that. And then there's like 3 other tunes where we were working on them, but we didn't get them finished. And I still have them, and I've been looking at them lately about, do I want to get these? Do I want to write for these and put these out? There is a track actually that I actually sing on that I'm about to release. It's called She's All Right, and Rich plays drums on that. And again, it's a song I wrote completely on my own, programmed the drums, wrote everything, did everything. And then he came in and he's like, oh, I want to play on that. So then he just played my drum part, but he brought, took it to another level. So I'm happy to have met you, to make your acquaintance, to talk to your fan base, and to be a part of whatever I could possibly contribute for what you're doing in the future. And, I think Dreamers is the right type of contagiousness that needs to be spread.